Hey, how's it going? It's your boy Elf7. Today I have a very special guest. I'm here today with.
Oh, my name's Mark Safman.
Okay. You're going to notice that there's actually like a lot of pauses as he goes down to look at this particular device right there. That's because, just so you know, actually, Mark is actually legally blind. And he's also has some pretty severe hearing loss. He can't really hear what I'm saying, so he actually has to read it off of that screen right there. So I've been coming to New Hampshire on a somewhat regular basis, and Mark's been coming up a whole bunch, and I've been super impressed with his tenacity and his resourcefulness. And he's a very intelligent person, and a lot of people just see him, and he can't really. It's very difficult for him to have a conversation normally. So, but I started talking to him, and I found that he was a super fascinating guy, and I was very interested to see why someone who has these particular issues, right, someone with this background, right, obviously someone who stands out in a crowd, is supporting Tulsi. So let's find out. Mark, how's it going? Why did you decide to support Tulsi in the campaign?
Well, have been interested in Tulsi ever since she stood up against the corruption that was prevalent in DNC back in 2016, and she resigned and endorsed Bernie Sanders at the same time, and that was kind of like, okay, here's a candidate who is going to seriously has some serious backbone to challenge institutionalized interests like that. And when she announced earlier this year that she was going to be running for president, I listened to her anti-war discussion, and it wasn't just the fact that she was anti-war; she was tying changing foreign policy, and she was saying, "Listen, we have been spending all this money on foreign policy, perma war, regime change wars that really do not serve the interests of America, and those money that we're squandering on those investments on war can be better spent in America." And she's outlined positions through fossil fuels, the Off Act, and just her commitment to things like such as water, food security, and her commitment to water is phenomenal, and clean water, and it's something that she gets the connection between foreign policy and domestic policy. It's a holistic view that I've been found lacking for a long time. And at 49, when you see a candidate present issues that you can be for, it's very positive, and it's very attractive to see a candidate that is advocating policies that you can agree with, and it isn't doing so in such a way that it's kind of like their approach, the walk and the talk are together.
Yeah, so look, I think that was a fantastic analysis of what was going on right there. And the thing is that, honestly, a lot of people might, have a certain vision of like, why they see someone and say, oh, this person must support Tulsi for this reason or that reason. But your reasons are actually very common amongst the Tulsi supporters. Actually, we just had the alternative to the debate, and that was a very common reason given. That was when I found about Tulsi too, when she actually stuck up for Bernie Sanders in 2016 at a huge cost to her own personal career, because she just decided that doing the right thing is more important than doing what's most beneficial for myself. And that's really the type of that's what I believe a true leader is. So, Mark, just to let us know a little bit more about your background, right? The thing is that you'll notice that when Mark talks, right, he doesn't sound like deaf people you may know, right? A lot of people who are deaf actually have, it's very difficult to understand what they're saying sometimes. They talk very loud or very soft, or they sound funny. But Mark, maybe you could share with us a little bit about how your condition came about, where you're having to read this thing off of the screen right there.
Sure. And I have when I was 16, they removed an acoustic neuroma from my right hearing nerve, and I'm totally deaf in my right ear. And then as I got older, my left ear just has it they're not sure. They've called it asymmetrical hearing loss, but basically, I have regular, normal, average hearing, but I have clarity issues where I only hear 1, 2, 3 out of 10 words, and it always depends on the person's voice, so it's incredibly difficult to explain. But if people talk in short sentences, I have a much better chance of understanding them. If the conditions are perfect, then if it totally depends on the person's voice. So my hearing loss is kind of strange to try to understand. And then my vision is completely different. And it's both are tied to genetics. The bilateral atrophy that I face is something that the doctors have basically said, well, they're genetic based, and unfortunately, our health insurance, that sort of genetic testing is elective and quite pricey. So
Yeah.
it's not something that I know it's available, and but considering the health insurance problems that we have here in America and access to health care, it again just leads me towards Tulsi because of her position towards focusing on people and challenging long established elite. She's going to be, for me, for disability inclusion, it really, the kinds of things that disability inclusion actually means, the investments in better training for businesses, so that they can understand how simple it is to make accommodations, to plan inclusive events, because you really do have a statistically significant number of people who are disabled,
Right.
who have mobility issues, who might have hearing, who might have vision issues, and these types of things require actual investments, and you have job opportunities to create niche companies
Okay.
that offer products and services to help businesses make their environments. For example, putting in hearing loops in common public areas for businesses or retail stores, small retail stores. The hearing loops, top quality hearing loops.
What's a hearing loop?
A hearing loop benefits people who have hearing aids. My hearing aids don't necessarily help me due to my hearing loss, but the hearing loop essentially focuses the sound, directs the sound into your hearing aid, so you hear it comes through. The sound
Okay.
is presented clearer.
So
With
these things
stronger
that you're
quality.
talking about, is Tulsi like supporting certain, or did she like sponsor any bills, or is there something in particular that she did for the disabled community, or just for like healthcare in general that made you decide to select her versus? Because when you think about healthcare, most people think Bernie Sanders, yeah. So why did you end up with Tulsi? Actually, you explained it before, and I actually think it's cool because what you explained before was your first priority wasn't your own problems. Your first priority was, taking care of the nation as a whole, holistically. And I think that's really cool. That's why I like hanging out with people from the Tulsi campaign, because they truly are service above self. They truly are about, improving the community without necessarily trying to attain personal glory or these other kinds of weird, wacky things that, sometimes the mainstream or, tells us that we should be pursuing. Yeah. I don't want to be the ruler of anybody else. I just want to help. Yeah. So, yeah, really, yeah. I'm not here to be a king. I'm here to be a servant. Yeah, I think that's just how I look at it. Anyways, so also I know that you're more than your disability, right? A lot of people look at someone and they say, "Oh, this guy's an Asian guy." They think they understand what I am. They look at you, they see someone maybe, they think, oh, look, there's a deaf guy. They think they understand what that is, right? But obviously, hopefully, from the things that Mark has said today, he's shown he's so much more. But what are some of the other things? Maybe do you have any family overseas? Do you have a previous? I think before you were in what is it? Something about money laundering, right? You were a money laundering investigator or something like that.
Yes, that's correct. I've been working in anti-money laundering compliance for several years now, and it's absolutely challenging. The research, the writing, and the analysis focus on areas that, well, I don't have to hear very well to do research and writing and analysis. And I think it's very typical of people who are disabled, where we become, very capable knowledge workers to add value, to firms just through what we know and providing input on our expertise. So it's challenging, and it's also it's tied to global events and foreign policy, particularly in the area of sanctions, which is another reason why I really like Tulsi, because she has strong awareness, noting that the way that American administrations have been applying sanctions rather arbitrarily over the increasing years. But certainly in the current administration, the sanctions are applied, I think, by tweet, and which is, you have a situation where sanctions used to be rather serious. Now they're announced so arbitrarily, and it's hard to keep up with the changes, and the sanctions really do feel like a political tool of the American government targeting countries, negatively impacting real people, not just the. You have a collective punishment against people of Venezuela, for example, where, I mean, like, we might oppose the Maduro, Chavez's replacement. Maduro, we definitely, it seems like it's a personal feud, where instead of having diplomatic relations, it's descended into name calling. We've elevated a very minor, unknown guy and named him interim president of a country that has a tremendous amount of natural resources. And our foreign policy team under this current administration has specifically said, suggested that we are looking into their oil. And it's been very blatant where the oil has been mentioned as a reason to do certain actions. And that sort of uses sanctions like that, where it's not necessarily a diplomatic dispute, but rather it's becoming an American economic interest to engage in regime change, causing pointless suffering of innocent civilians to benefit Western U.S. led elites.
And actually, if I could just get a word in on this. So the thing is that actually, I'm actually ethnically Korean. I've never been to Korea. Am I really Korean? No. But, just because I have an ethnic connection to Korea, I just kind of paid attention to what's going on. And if the U.S. has a problem with Kim Jong-il, right, they want to say Kim Jong-il or Kim Jong-un, whoever's in power, is a bad guy, right? Do they need to make the people of Korea starve and suffer, right? You know that North Korea, they were under like Ethiopia-like conditions. People ate the bark off of trees. They ate up all the grass off the ground. There was so much death over there. Did Kim Jong-il or Kim Jong-un have like a hard life? Did they suffer because of the sanctions? No, they were living really, really well. They lived in palatial mansions. Everything was taken care of for them, right? Did the people cause that to happen? Why should the people suffer? Why don't you just take out Kim Jong-il or Kim Jong-un? You don't have to starve a whole entire people and make them suffer, for the mistakes of the leaders. It's like, if we found that Iraq was wrong, right? Can you imagine that they made all of us citizens starve because, the Iraq war, they found that there were no weapons of mass destruction, so they take sanctions against us, and we all, we can't get food to eat because of our leaders made a mistake and decided to go gung-ho on the war. It's just it just defies common sense. Yeah. So yeah, I just thank you for your observations on those sanctions, and especially someone from your background. Already from the things that Mark says, you can tell he's a very intelligent person, right? A lot of people, one saying for people, they said deaf and dumb, right? People who couldn't speak, they called them certain words, but this guy's obviously super intelligent, and it's been a real pleasure to be on the campaign trail with him. Yeah, he's also a super hard worker. He doesn't. He's definitely, like, out of all the people that's coming here and putting in work, Mark does not let up. He's definitely a champ in my book, and I'm honored to sit next to him today. Yeah.
Thank you. No, it's been a lot of fun. The going out to talk with people it really does help you clarify what you feel about a candidate, and Tulsi's style of governing, reaching out to people. I mean, she has told the story many, many times where she spoke about her first election, winning election, and introducing herself to members of Congress by asking her mom to help make a whole heck of a lot of macadamia nut toffee, which is very delicious. We've seen some samples here in New Hampshire, but it's her way of introducing herself to her colleagues and saying, "Listen, I'm here. This is my district, and this is my way of saying hello. Let's have a conversation." And the way that she's been able to initiate conversations with colleagues, even if they do not agree or they do disagree with her openly, but they're kind of like, you know what, you're a human being, so why don't we find some points that we can get along with, and we'll build consensus based on our commonalities. And that sort of approach to politics is something that is refreshing, and it's really something where no, in Tulsi's instance, she is definitely critiqued the Democratic National, the DNC, and she said, the way that you folks have been doing business is so corrupt, and so you're turning off voters. People are not voting. I mean, Clinton basically lost because people stayed home, and in very key states that she should have won.
I didn't vote for Clinton.
So,
and it wasn't because I wanted Trump. It's just because I just saw so much ridiculous, things that were against democracy. Like messing around at the convention and stuff. It was just bad, man. And lying all the time. Come on, Hillary.
And now you have this impeachment. I think again, Tulsi's total approach of just voting present. I mean, she is protesting the system and the effort. It's been an obvious partisanship struggle for ever since Donald Trump won the election. They had the Mueller investigation, and that dragged on 2 years, or 2 years, and then you've had the threat of impeachment being discussed rather brazenly in the press for as long as he's been in office, and it just seems that the hatred, the personal hatred that they have for Trump is misguided and misplaced, simply because it's like, no, Trump is just as much a neoliberal capitalist as Obama is. They just represent different factions, and Donald Trump's faction is more direct and more blatant. And instead of Obama talking about how he wants to control the rules of the game, Donald Trump is just saying, I don't care what your game is. Our game is profits. We'll take the oil. We don't care if it's your country. We'll take the Syrian oil. We'll station our troops in Syria to protect the oil, which we all know is where our troops are going to be staying, protecting the oil until we somehow cut a deal where we can retain control of the oil legally. That is just, that's not what foreign policy is supposed to be. We're not supposed to be thugs. We're not supposed to engage in theft. We're Americans. We help people, and we succeed by helping people. and Tulsi returns American foreign policy towards, I guess you would have to call it a golden area, where we generally focused on trying to do good. Her criticism of Afghanistan policy is 100% correct, and her approach with caution with the Syrian, the so-called chemical attack, and they're seeing that the OPCW report has significant questions, which would cast doubt on the legitimacy of the claims that the Trump administration used to lob a few, I guess, Tomahawk missiles that were a very wonderful waste of silver, and basically only a few actually hit their targets, and many were reportedly intercepted by Syrian and Russian.
Yeah, and also these things are causing huge civilian casualties. It's not like like we're just like attacking their troops only. Like thousands of civilians, babies, women, children just dying, just getting blown up. It's ridiculous. Yeah, these people had no, just like because we had the Iraq War, do we deserve to get bombed and killed? I hope not. I didn't want that. So yeah. So that was actually very. I really like your analysis from the foreign policy perspective, and I know that your knowledge from all the different fields of working in the anti-money laundering compliance thing probably provided some perspective. From a global standpoint, I think that's amazing. And if you see someone, if you see Mark on the campaign trail, definitely holler at him. He's filled with a lot of deep insight. Yeah. So thank you so much for doing your interview today. I really appreciate it. And this is my guy right here. This is my man right here. Yeah. All right.
Thank you.
All right. See you. Okay. Bye.